Well, this is a tesseract, and now it is undergoing the so-called double rotation. This is a tesseract on a generic HDRI, and this is a generic tesseract on a nice procedural background. And now, this is an enslaved tesseract.
By the blender.
This is me holding a tesseract, on a tesseract, on a tesseract. For those who haven't watched Adventure Time, a tesseract is a 4-dimensional cube.
4 dimension isn't time in this case. It's a spatial dimension, just like width, height, and depth, but a perpendicular to those three.
But here you ask, how does one create a tesseract? Assuming you cannot perceive 4D space, because you can't, you puny human, you shall make a projection in 3D space, also known as shadow. So you pick a Blender as a rendering engine, because let's face it, this, and this are the same thing. Okay, but how are you supposed to create tesseracts? There are several things you're going to need before we begin though. Basic knowledge of Blender, basic knowledge of Python, knowing SnumpY, matrix multiplication, rotation matrices, projection matrices, some fucked up brain so you can imagine 4D space, knowing how to play the piano, absolutely need to know the first 1000 digits of pi, and of course, some imagination. There's one last thing that's absolutely mandatory. I need your undying trust and loyalty as a general of my army so we can take over the world. I'm joking.
Not really.
In all seriousness, the creation of this interesting shape can be divided in 4 parts. Calculating the vertices, rotating those vertices, projection from 4D to 3D space, or otherwise known as casting a shadow, and the last part is calculating the faces.
I cheated on that one.
Let's imagine you have 2 points in space. They're the bottom left back corner and the upper right front corner, and you can easily calculate the rest, right? But in 4 dimensions, it's exactly the same. Now that we have our vertex data, we shall rotate that bitch. I'm going to give you some time to check out what's a rotation matrix. You done yet? Cool. So basically, now that you know approximately what's a rotation matrix, you can apply this to any n-dimensional object in n-dimensional space, but now we are doing it in 4 dimensions. The cool thing in 4 dimensions is that you have 2 world planes that aren't sharing an axis, these being x, y, and zw, so the rotation becomes far more interesting. Fine, we have our vertices, we can rotate them. The thing is, we cannot see them, because our eyes haven't evolved to perceive 4-dimensional space, you puny humans. So we can do something else. We can use a projection matrix to cast a shadow, in quotes, of course, into our 3D world. Time for the projection matrix googling. You done yet? Cool. So we have our shadow, and now we can see our creation. Of course, we can't yet because we haven't imported it in Blender and shit. Yeah. The faces, the absolute bane of my existence for the past week. Of course, now I solved them, but I cannot be bothered to explain how I managed to calculate them initially, because calculating those yourself is absolute fucking cancer. But in the end, I found a nice workaround using the very program I tried to write a script for. So I just imported all the previous steps into Blender and then just manually selected the faces, created them, and then exported them and imported them back. I thought that was the end. But it turned out the Blender API isn't suited for the kind of work I wanted it to do. So it took me a lot of time to figure out how to code it into Blender. I managed to do it, so you don't have to just go to GitHub and download the fucking script, you little bitch. It's time for some creative freedom. Go slaves, do something with my shit. I'm joking, of course, you can do whatever you want, but if you want to do something with my shit, be sure to tweet it at me. So, I wanted to say that this project was a bummer, even though the first couple of days were really fun looking into the maths of this, but then it became real frustrating with not able to calculating the face and the Blender API being a fucking bitch. So I hope you liked it. If you have any suggestions for expanding this 4D shit in Blender, I'm absolutely open to it. Like, just tweet me and I'll add you as a contributor so you can fuck up my repository and some working montage.